But I think Arsenal would go up a level in attack with a player like Rafihna.
Yeah, I said this on my show yesterday that, I know everybody loves Bukayo Saka, and I do as well. Like, this is not to shade him in any sort of way, but he has so much leverage in terms of his contract negotiations, and we have none. He kind of has the club by the balls right now, and he's 20 years old, and that's not really where Arsenal should be. I know a lot of people are like, well, Rafihna can play off the left. Rafihna is a right winger. That's what he is. Like, he plays off of the right-hand side.
Yep.
So he would be brought in to have competition or be competition to Bukayo Saka. And I don't know about you, but if you have a player that you really like that's negotiating a new contract and is going to want an arm and a leg and potentially even a release clause in their contract, wouldn't you feel better if you had somebody like Rafihna right there anyway? Would you be as devastated if, let's say, a Man City came in next summer for Bukayo Saka and gave us 100 million, but we already have Rafihna there? That's the kind of situation Arsenal need to be in. So I'm not surprised that we're looking at right wingers, because we can't have Bukayo Saka running us into the ground. Like, he's 20, he's a good player, but like, we shouldn't be afraid for him to jump ship. We should always have a player there ready to take his position, and he's never had any competition. I'm very against the idea of, it being another young player behind him. It needs to be somebody that's better than him, that can push him, or if Saka can't hack it, then he goes. And that's for every single player. I love Saka, but I would love this deal to happen, even though I think it would be really difficult.
You have to put your club above any one individual player, and it's okay. And I'm not condescending to anybody. When I was a kid, I loved David Beckham from Leytonstone. I had curtains like I had curtains. He's my favorite player. I loved him, and I was gutted when he left. But as I become an adult, which he actually left when I was like 17. The older I got, the more I realized I didn't care as much about the individual players as I do the football club. And you're absolutely right in what you're saying about Saka. If Saka's going to be the superstar that Arsenal fans predict, he'll do that irrespective of who you buy, because he'll outperform that player in training and he'll outperform that player in matches. Therefore, he will outshine him. Equally, Saka got run into the ground last season. That's why the last couple of months he faded. It wasn't his ability. It was because he was knackered. And there's parallels at my football club about that as well. Josh Smith here says that personally, I'd swap him Mora plus £30 million. It's a good little take there. Arsenal don't have Champions League. We'll kind of move on to that a little bit later. I don't think in the short term that's so important. Olu here says Terry Rafihna will not be coming to Liverpool. FFG see him as a £30 million max. Leeds want 60 million. Please stop linking us to him. I'm not linking him to you. The media is. We're talking about. So again, remember, the Football Terrace does not do the links. The Football Terrace talks about the news. And I'm sorry to burst anyone's bubble. Every single fan channel in the world follows this model. They don't have their own news. They may speak to journalists. Like I'm very fortunate to have access to a lot of journalists through Give Me Sport. But it's not my news. The only time I don't share the source is if the person who's giving it to me is like, I don't want my name attached to that yet. And I'm like, sweet, bro, I'll go with it. Like, I've got some Basuma stuff coming up, mate. And that's mainly because a lot of journalists don't actually want the attention online. It's not about the news not being great. They don't all want the interactions and everything else. They don't even enjoy it. But there we go. I'd rather Anthony over Rafihna, to be honest. See, Anthony's an interesting one because I don't know enough about him again. I've watched him. I've read about him. I know he becomes highly rated, but
I'd be interested to know who Football Matters is, like, who they support. It's an interesting take. I mean, if you're a Manchester United fan, yeah, you'd probably want Anthony because you have Ten Hag, right? But like, if you're like an Arsenal fan, you probably want Rafihna because he's played in this league before. Again, we spoke about this. We need players that we know are going to hit the ground running. Not the saying that I don't think I rate Anthony very high. He's going to be fine. But for Arsenal, he'd be more of a risk.
TJ, I haven't missed your super chats. I'm just going to come to them when they're more relevant in the show a little bit later, my friend. Gal here says, just stop waffling. I think that's about your Saka comments.
Okay.
I listen. I don't understand where
nothing. He's not saying anything. Gal, you're not actually saying anything. Just stop waffling about because I'm saying that Bukayo Saka may go. He may have a release clause in his contract. Again, those are reports that have come out that he might want a release clause. So it's not really waffling when it's out there.
This is the strangest thing to me. I remember having this conversation with Man United fans. Again, I brought this up before and I'll bring it up again. It's relevant. KJ is probably watching. KJ didn't want, and a lot of United fans didn't want Haaland because of the development of Greenwood. The irony in that now is crazy, but no one knew what was coming. But the point is, you don't know what's around the corner. Right now, Southgate, by the way, I'm not saying he's the right guy for the job, but Southgate said the other day, a lot of the Man United players currently out the squad are going to have to do a lot of work. So essentially, they're going to have to be amazing for the first 2 or 3 months of the season to go to the World Cup. 2 years ago, if you would have said Judd Bowen and Bukayo Saka of Arsenal and West Ham, respectively, were going to keep Rashford and Jadon Sancho, and Sancho wasn't even a Man United player back then, out of the England squad, people would have laughed at you. They would have laughed at you. So there is no guarantee that Saka or Martinelli or Smith Rowe go to that next level. Some players stay where they are at 17, 18, 19, 20 and never get any better. Arsenal can't afford to just stand still and hope. You have to keep and continually improve your squad at all times, and it elevates you. And if Saka ends up being on the bench because 2 or 3 players are better than him, that's nothing. If you're a Gooner and that worries you,
why do you care? I don't get it.
I don't understand. And if Saka is better than Rafihna, then what a player you've got coming off the bench. And someone said this to me earlier, and it's kind of eluding a lot of us at the minute. There's 5 subs next year, and they're talking about 5 subs forever now. It's going to be a forever thing in football. So, well, now you've got 5 subs. You know when people say, "Oh, how's so and so going to play?" Well, you've got 5 subs. It means certain players will probably come on every game at 55, 60 minutes as fresh legs. And it will become more of a tactic. Football is going to change with 5 subs on a regular basis now as well. It also means the bigger teams will want big, deep, thick squads, because imagine that 65 minutes, 0-0, team your player is tiring, and you're bringing on 5 stars from your bench. Levels.
Yeah. And I think if you heard my last comments about Saka and you heard Saka's going to leave 100% and, Arteta out, then you weren't listening. Again, everything is not roses and butterflies. It just isn't. And we're within that 2-year period of, either we need to progress or those young players are not going to stay. So all I want is for Arsenal to have leverage, because all I really care about is Arsenal. I'm not a part of Player FC. I don't care about Saka's career more than I care about Arsenal. And he has us by the balls right now. We don't have anybody to compete with him. We kind of have to give him what he wants in order for him to stay. So if you bring in a better player, you have more leverage. If he doesn't sign a contract, you can sit him. And there's no guarantee that he does. I haven't seen anything online that says it's a guarantee that he signs a new contract. So
no doubt about it at all. And you've got a comment here that says, Jess, I get what you're saying regarding Saka, but Pepe was supposed to compete. Well, he was.
Well, Pepe never really adapted to the league. Rafihna already plays for a Premier League team and is playing really well. I don't think Pepe actually was here before Saka actually got introduced into the team. So Pepe wasn't brought in to compete with Saka. He couldn't hack it, and Saka became the right wing because he was crap. So completely different situations, in my opinion.
There we go. Apparently, teams in Europe competing are going to have 3 game a weeks for most of next season due to the fixture congestion from the World Cup. That's also a great. If that's true again, Carter. Firstly, I don't want to hear anyone moaning because all our clubs are about to go traveling around the world, which is obviously tiring, even in first class. Yeah. So I don't want to hear anybody boo-hooing or moaning come January when players are tired. Keep them in England now. Do your pre-seasons locally. Less traveling, more time to rest. So yeah, I don't want to hear the moaning, but that's another reason why the big teams, the top 6, are going to want that extra players. Of course, Terry, I agree with Terry on this. Of course, mate. As you know, that it is what it is. Saka is overrated. He isn't overrated. He's a brilliant player. There is no doubt about it. But everybody needs to be pushed. Everybody needs competition, and everybody needs to be challenged on a regular basis. Saka hasn't. Saka hasn't reached half the level that Sancho and Foden have reached in their careers so far, despite all being in the same age range, is what Speaking Fact says. Do you think Saka's on the sort of levels of Sancho's and Foden's overall in his career?
Not quite Foden, I don't think. Sancho's an interesting one because Sancho came to the Premier League and kind of struggled, but you could caveat that with all this, situation that going on with Manchester United. But Saka has done better than him in the Premier League. But would Saka go to the Bundesliga and score 20-something goals a season? I think he would. So I think him and Sancho are a lot closer than him and Foden. I think Foden is kind of on a he's closer to the Holland category than Saka is. So I would say they're not all on the same playing field. But Saka, yeah, we project a lot upon him. Like there's a lot of he's gonna be this, he's gonna be that. We'll only know what he's gonna be like when he's actually pushed to the limit. Right now, he's our best player. And if a 20-year-old is your best player, you're probably not doing things right. So I would like to see somebody else come in that's not a kid and really push the likes of Martinelli and Saka so we can actually see what they are instead of projecting onto them. And then, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
It's interesting. I get you. Do you know what I think is interesting as well when you look at Saka and Sancho? Saka hasn't got a world-class manager and coach with him yet. Maybe Arteta will grow into that, but he isn't right now. And you saw the difference in Sancho, one moving back to England, but then having the Ollie situation, then going into the Ralph situation. I'd be very interested. I think if you took Bukayo Saka now and put him in Pep Guardiola's squad and vice versa with Sancho, I think you would inside a year of the training and the coaching and getting used to them, you'd be talking about the Phil Foden levels. Equally, if you took Phil Foden and put him back into Ollie's team for 2 years, you would not think Phil Foden's as good. There are a lot of people now that are like questioning João Felix because João Felix numbers, João Felix output, João Felix progression has stalled from what we expected 3 years ago. But he's playing for Diego Simeone, who is, in my opinion, isn't going to train, coach, and teach a style of football that's going to make him flourish. He is, so I think there's that factor that has to come into this. Who is your manager? Who is your coach? What is the style of play? And then who's around you to help elevate you? And I think for instance, with Sancho this year, I think we're going to see a very, very different Sancho in the Premier League to what we saw last year. D's back again. He says, Jess, Saka doesn't have us by the balls. I love the kid, but let's not pretend he's Vinny or Mbappe or Salah. He's done nothing in his career yet. Calm.
But he's that to us.
He's your star boy, no doubt.
Yeah, he's that to us. And so at this point, if Saka were to not sign a new deal, the fan base would go into complete and utter meltdown. We all know that. So he does. It's going to take 200,000 pounds per week, I think, to get Saka to I really think we live in an alternate universe. We haven't seen this before. Robin Van Persie didn't happen. Cesc didn't happen. Alexis didn't happen. I don't know. He does. He's in a very good position, to get exactly what he wants because there's nobody else in our team that's above him right now. He is our Vinny. He's our Mbappe. So unless you have other players out there that can sit him down, he does have a lot of leverage. I think we live in this universe where we forgot what's happened in the past. These players, regardless if they're Hale End or not, which I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that are sitting there well, he's Hale End. He's Hale End until he really wants to, win trophies and move forward. And so, yeah, I'm not saying he's going to leave right this second, but it would be in Arsenal's best interest to gain some leverage or at least put ourselves in a position where if Bukayo Saka does not sign a new contract or he wants a release clause, we have a good player there to step in.
At the same time, it works. This is a great comment from Jay that says, from Saka's point of view, it would be risky to sign that contract in the rebuild if they fail. Yeah, of course, if he signs a new 5-year extension and in a year, 18 months' time, Arsenal are completely folded again, the project's failed, and they're all starting again and rebuilding, that is when you could find someone like him wanting to push away. However, bringing in quality like Rafihna, Gabriel Jesus, Yuri Tillemans, it stops the failure from actually happening. So it almost, to keep Saka, you need to buy these types of players. You need to make that squad so good that it's a fun and an enjoyable place to train and work and want to get to the top in. Plus, you're winning more football matches. There's no doubt. But viewers...